Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of where Issei left and became the fallen dragon emperor. It had been a year after the Battle of Trihexa, and so much rebuilding was being done. Still, hero Issei Hyoudou had left his hometown and while heading to a new city to not only enjoy college, but rebuild his life outside of his old life. However, there is more to the story than meets the eye. For some wonder why the former Red Dragon Emperor would want to leave his old town. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now let's get into part 1. It was a cool evening as a train was unloading its last few individuals off said train for the night. Only a few people were on the train, but one person definitely stood out from the passengers. That person was a tall man with short dark brown hair that had red tints at the end of it. His eyes were dark brown but seemed to be cold, as if he was telling people to leave him alone. His attire looked similar to that of a delinquent of sorts, as he wore a long, black, high-collared, and tattered cloak with shoulder plates. Around his waist was a simple belt. The man also wore loose-fitting dark pants along with some simple boots that were good for fighting. The man was carrying a duffel bag of sorts while leaving the train station as he looked at the name of the town he was in. Shinto Tito. It seems nicer than my old town, that's for sure, the man said as he looked at his left arm and saw that it was covered in crimson scales. You'd be surprised what happened to me after the war in these past few months, Drake. You'd probably ask me if I knew what I was doing. The man chuckled as he recalled what his old friend would say to him until he decided to head to his new destination. I need a drink. A thin Shinto Tito. Man, that hit the spot, Kazuhana said as she wiped her mouth after drinking the bottle of sake. Kaguri sighed at the wind. Sekirei. Why are you like this sometimes, Kazuhana? You know you can't keep drinking so much or else your liver will explode, Kaguri said as Kazuhana smiled with a tiny blush before speaking to him. Well, it's the best way to drown one's sorrows, and what better way to feel alive than drink until you collapse, Kazuhana said as Kaguri sighed before the door to the bar was opened. The man walked into the bar and sat down a bit far from the woman. Kaguri and Kazuhana were surprised by his appearance before Kaguri went over to him and asked, "Good evening, sir. What can I get you? Water?" Kaguri nodded and went to fill up the glass while Kazuhana couldn't help but feel turned on by the look in his eyes before she waved at him. "Hi there, handsome. What's a guy like you doing here alone?" Kazuhana asked as she sauntered over to him and pressed her chest on his left arm. She was shocked to see no reaction from him. "Get your tits off me, skank. I'm not in the mood for your games," the man said as Kazuhana felt offended by the remark before speaking to him. "And what makes you think I am one? You act like you'd sleep with any guy if they buy you a drink and promise you a good time. Just piss off. I don't feel like sleeping with a slut," the man said as Kazuhana began to clench her fists in rage. Kaguri gave the man his glass of water before the man drank it in one gulp. "I've seen your type, lady, and let me tell you, I'm not impressed," the man said as he turned to look at Kazuhana, whose eyes widened as she looked at them. As a Sekir, their species can look into the souls of others and see their emotional pain, so when Kazuhana looked into those eyes, she saw the same emotion she felt when her feelings weren't returned to her by the man she loved. Sadness. Kazuhana unclenched her fists as she sat next to him and sighed. "I'm actually a virgin, believe it or not. I act like that because we are like broken-hearted by someone we loved." The man was shocked by this as he chuckled as he spoke to her. "Well, if you are like me, then you must have had some therapy to deal with since I had a messed up brain because of the bullshit I had to deal with. It got worse when I was betrayed by the woman I loved who not only cheated on me but also berated me while making out and fucking with her boyfriend." The man clenched his left fist tightly as he looked at his naked ring finger and sighed. "Would you believe me if I told you that we were engaged to be married?" Kazuhana and Kaguri were surprised by this before the man nodded. "It's true. Want to hear my story?" Kazuhana nodded and listened to how the man began to regale his tale of how he was just a normal, perverted, but honest boy who desired to have a harem to treat as the queens of his world with love, respect, and affection. The man said his name was Issei Hyoudou, and how he was killed and betrayed by the first girl, who said she loved him and left a scar on his heart. Then he spoke about how he was able to heal thanks to his friends, and learning to be open and love again. Still, all that resulted in Issei being betrayed by the woman he wished to propose to, his ex-girlfriend Rias Gremery. Still, sadly, the dagger stabbed his heart again when he saw that Rias was already at the restaurant with another man, whom she met at her college and seemed to be very close since Issei followed them to a love hotel where the two made love, and Rias said she would dump Issei. It hurt, but when Issei went to see his other girlfriends, he saw that each of them cheated on him and betrayed the promise they made to each other. The twisting of the dagger was so painful that Issei nearly turned into a dragon and went on a rampage. Still, he was able to control himself as he decided that they didn't love him anymore or wanted him, so he decided to leave his old town for college and make a new life for himself. Which brings me to here. I'm here to restart my life from zero. So let me know what you think. Am I crazy or just some depressed fool? Issei asked as he drank another glass of water before Kazuhana reached out for his left hand and took it. No. Issei then looked at Kazuhana as she spoke to him. You did nothing wrong. You are telling the truth, and you are not a bad man. Kazuhana said as Issei chuckled at him. Yeah, right. Apparently, I must have fucked up somehow because my life changed forever and went to hell. So tell me how I'm not a bad man when the people I love betrayed me after I sacrificed my body, my soul, my heart, my life. Issei roared as Kazuhana and Kaguri were shocked by his aura and strength due to the dent he placed on the counter. Issei stopped himself as he looked at the counter, took some money out and placed it on the counter. I'm sorry. This amount should be enough to fix it. I'll be leaving now. Issei said as he was about to leave until a hand caught him. Hey Issei. Mind escorting a girl home? Issei blinked at the girl before he sighed at his kind heart, telling him to help her. Fine, Issei said as he carried Kazuhana to the Izumo Inn, thanks to her directions. He was greeted by a woman at the entrance smiling at them. Oh, hello there. Thank you for bringing Kazuhana here. My name is Mio-sama. It's nice to see you. Mia said as Issei introduced himself and placed the drunk woman on the couch. Mia offered to have Issei stay for the night. No. I don't want to trouble you at all, Osama-san. Nonsense. It's really cold out tonight, and it's impossible to find a room this late. Please stay the night. Mia said as Issei tried to argue back, but his stomach growled as Mia giggled at his flustered expression. I suppose I can stay for the night. Wonderful. I believe you love it here. Mia said as Issei followed her to the kitchen and asked if he could help her, but Mia just directed Issei to the kitchen table. She heated some leftover soup and gave it to Issei. Little did Issei know that tonight would be the start of a new beginning in life. Issei then thanked Mia for the room as he sighed as he heard her leave him be. Issei then looked at a full moon and felt a sense of nostalgia form in his heart as he recalled that night that changed his fate. Who would have thought that the goddess of love would save me when I was truly at my lowest point? Issei said as he closed his eyes and recalled the day he nearly took his life after his heart was destroyed into pieces by their words and actions. Flashback. A few months ago. Issei's heart broke as he refused to go on a rampage, so instead, he decided to destroy an entire mountain away from civilization to release his rage. He then roared in rage and sorrow after feeling his heart break from the knife twisting his heart. Is this how they really feel about me? They never loved me and just pretended to care about me. Zenobia and Kaneko, I believe, but Irina and Asia too. After all we've been through together. Issei yelled in his head as he looked at his left arm and cried again as he roared once more while pondering what he did to deserve being alone, and if this was his fate. Issei stayed on that mountain for the night until Lavoie spoke to him from a person he wasn't expecting to see. The Greek goddess of love, Aphrodite. I say hi to. I'm here to stop you from taking your life. Aphrodite said as she walked towards Issei. He kept his head down and spoke to her. What's the point? The war is over. I lost the boosted gear due to Drake and the past users sacrificing their lives for me. My mind was finally doing better and I was feeling happy, but now, Issei said as he clenched his fists before glaring at Aphrodite. Now, when I wanted to propose to the woman who saved my life and the one who I loved decided to betray me by cheating on me and lying to my face for months. My other girlfriends lied and cheated on me, and all for what? Replacing me after what I did for them. The time we spent together, the memories we shared, and all the dates meant nothing to them? Aphrodite approached to say as he kept talking. Was this my fate? Was I destined to be alone and be another pawn in the game of power? What is the point of living anymore when I lost my title and my partner as well as the ones I loved? Issei yelled as Aphrodite kept walking towards him until she took him into her arms and gently rubbed his back. You did nothing wrong, Issei. They are the ones who chose to betray you. You have nothing to fear, for I do not see you for the boosted gear. I see you as someone who's in pain from having been betrayed twice by the women he loved and cared for so much that seeing their betrayal pushed you this far, Aphrodite said as she clenched her fists while keeping Issei close to her. I won't let you kill yourself. If you need a reason to live, then I'll give you a reason. Aphrodite shouted as Issei's eyes widened with tears still in his eyes before he looked up at her as Aphrodite spoke to him. Do not close your heart off from everyone. There are still other people who still care about you and would cry if you died. Some will appear to fill and fix your broken heart, but promise me that you won't kill yourself and let this pain keep you from being happy. I'll try, but how? Issei asked. Aphrodite said nothing at first. She then kissed the top of his head before hugging him close as a mother would a child. Live your own life, Issei Hyoudou. Don't live as Issei Hyoudou, the Red Dragon Emperor or pawn of Gremory. Live as yourself and learn to love again. The ones who still love you are out there, and some will fill the hole in your heart. Trust me when I say many love you, Issei. So please keep this promise. Aphrodite said as Issei clenched his fist as he struggled to keep their words away before nodding. Okay, I promise I'll live. And it was on that day that the broken man who was once a pillar of strength and inspiration was now a person who thought he had nothing left to live for, but it was the words of a goddess who was able to save him from ending his life. Then flashback, I made a promise, and I'll try to live for myself, Issei said as he relaxed his body on the futon before closing his eyes, not knowing that his life would always involve the supernatural in some way. Tonight is the night that a game shall begin with many birds being released into the city, and now it's time for the game to begin. Let's see how the gods will favor the destined ones of the Ashikabe. Minaka said as he stood on top of a clock tower as the bell rang to signal that it was now midnight and the start of a new era. Go town. I'm still not sure this is a good idea, Kiba. Didn't Issei explicitly tell us not to mention anything to the others? Gasper asked as Kiba sighed and replied as he finished writing a letter of sorts. Look, I know we promised to say not to tell Sergiches, Azazel, or any of the higher-ups, but that doesn't mean we can't inform, say, certain others who still care for Issei and haven't seen him for months, Kiba said as he knew that travel was busy in the underworld, helping the lower-class devils rebuild and helping many other families who lost their loved ones in the war. Issei helped out as well, and the low-class devils were happy to have their protector, and hero help them even though they didn't ask. Ravel and Issei spent some time together before Issei went to his therapy sessions, which allowed him to be more in control of his emotions. Hiroka had been helping out as an ambassador for the Yukai faction. She was helping Kunu become the next leader of the faction due to Yasaka, losing most of her strength after the battle with Trihexa and Rizavim. Kunu definitely hit a growth spurt once she hit 16 and definitely grew up to be a beautiful young woman. Broswiss went back to the Norse faction to make sure that there were no traces of Trihexa's return and that the last of the Chaos Brigade was destroyed. Bukal was even given a pardon and was giving back to the community and supernatural world by helping hunt down the remnants of the organization along with Jean, who was rehabilitated, thanks to Gabriel herself, and thankful for chatting with Issei after his therapy sessions. Kiba was happy that Issei was getting some help and that the war was over as the factions were healing after Trihexa's defeat. He was even in a relationship now with Tsubaki with a little help from Gasper and Issei who pushed him to man up and talk to her, which was just what he needed since when Kiba confessed they also had a first kiss, thanks to a small nudge from his friends. Asper, on the other hand, was doing well and doing some more training, but Kiba had a feeling that there was more to Gasper after than met the eye, especially when he heard Gasper whispering something in his sleep that made the night blush. I know the girls probably didn't say anything to their families and comrades, and who could blame them? Imagine the ramifications that would occur should their secret be revealed to the world. Please think of how the factions would be at war with each other, should they learn that the biblical faction didn't know about this. Issei was and is still the pillar of strength and support for the biblical faction, even if the boosted gear is no more. His skills, his kind heart, and his power are still within him and have made an impact in our comrades' factions. Giba said as he knew that the Greek, Norse, and Yakai faction would be enraged at the biblical faction for not knowing about this, and then the girls would be the cause of it, all because they betrayed the one person who not only saved them multiple times, but helped them become the person they are today. I know, but I care about Issei's wishes, and he didn't want anyone to know besides us. He trusts us, but won't we betray him if we do this? Gasper said as Kiba sighed before replying. I know, but a part of me is telling me to do this. Not just for Issei but for the other girls as well, and I know that deep down, you want to tell them as well, even though you wish to respect his wishes. Kiba said as Gasper stuttered a bit but still nodded before Gasper left Kiba to finish his letter to the recipient. Gasper then went to his room and clutched a shirt on him before going to the balcony and letting the moonlight shine down on him as he recalled his latest memory of his say before he departed to his future college. Flashback. A few days ago. Do you really have to go? Shinto Tito is a large place, and Tokyo University is very difficult to get into, Gasper said, as he didn't want Issei to leave before Issei stopped his packing. As he then turned around to the damper and hugged the small boy in his arms. Yes, I do, Issei said before looking at Gasper's eyes and saw them filling with water before Issei said his reasons. I wanted to kill myself because of my heartache and pain when I felt that heartbreak. It felt even worse than when Rainer killed me since I thought they really did love me and care about me. But after I saw the truth, I could feel my heart being shattered into many pieces. Asper cried as he heard how Issei was saved by Aphrodite, who told him that others still loved him and would heal his heart and that he should live and love himself. So once I heard from my first college of my choice, I was so ecstatic that this might be a sign of a new chance at a new life. So that's why I want to take this chance for a clean slate and become a better person, Issei said as Gasper then cried out. But you are already a better person. I don't want to lose the one that I love and help me escape my fears. Gasper cried as Issei pulled out a handkerchief and wiped Gasper's eyes before kissing his forehead. Jasper? I do love you, but this is what I need to get away from all of this. For too long, I've always done what Rias and the many factions ordered me. So now that I'm a high-class devil, I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. I make my own mistakes. Learn from them. Fulfill a dream that I wanted to do before I wanted to be a harem king. I know this sounds like I want to leave you, but you're mistaken. This means that I want to build a better future for myself, and those who still love me and make them proud of who I am now. Not Issei Hyoudou, the Red Dragon Emperor, but as myself. Issei said as he kissed Gasper's forehead again before hugging the crying Daphmer so much that Gasper slowly hugged him back and nodded in agreement with him. I understand, but promise me you won't forget me, Gasper said as Issei smiled back and replied, of course. After all, who am I to leave a cute girl like you and forget you? Issei said as Gasper giggled and laughed. Issei laughed with him until Gasper then placed a hand on top of Issei's own before asking him. Will you promise never to forget me and talk to us? I promise. It'll be wrong to leave you two alone since I know Kiba is staying here with you. And one last thing, when I graduate from high school, will you take me on a real date? With the real me? Gasper asked as Issei smiled and nodded. Of course. After all, a beautiful young woman like yourself would make any man feel lucky to be with you. Issei said as Gasper blushed and smiled. She felt her heart beat loudly until the Daphmer snuggled in Issei's arms. It's really thanks to you and Valerie that I am able to be my real self. Plus, you really made me feel happy when you snuggled with me and copped to feel, Asper said as Issei stuttered with a faint blush, trying to deny the claim. But this just made Gasper smile as she was happy to be able to help Issei feel better and could see that despite Issei's changes in confidence, a part of his human self is still in there. Thus, a promise was made that night between a man and woman for the future, then flashback. And I can't wait to hear from you again, Gasper said as she let her wings unfurl. She then took off into the night sky and flew around, enjoying the feel of the cool breeze hitting her skin while pondering how Issei was doing as well as the others. Asper has been working on becoming a beautiful and elegant lady who would not only wow Issei, but also shower him with so much love that the pieces of his broken heart would be put back together. Meanwhile, Kiba finished his letter and placed it in the envelope before sending it through a portal to its destination. I'm sorry, Gasper. I'm sorry, Issei, but I can't just keep this a secret and let them think they can get away with hurting my friend, Kiba said as he then headed to his room to rest for the evening. Meanwhile, in the great palace of Olympus, Aphrodite was watching over Issei and smiled as she gasped at one of the women who were unknown to her and was reacting to Issei. This aura is a strange one since I've never felt a creature with this kind of power before. Aphrodite is the goddess of love who can see powerful connections between soulmates and help couples with their relationship issues, should there be any. That is why she was curious about why the 6 girls decided to cheat on Issei, even though they'd had such strong love. Aphrodite went to the files she had on the girls and looked at each of them carefully. They could see that their feelings for Issei started to change after the war when they were separated from each other due to their new lives and how they were being accustomed to the changes that came with them. Aphrodite could understand this since life does throw many curved balls into the mix. But as she looked at Akino and Ria's file, she could see that the boy the two were dating had apparently been in their classes, and the girls were helping him get used to his sacred gear. So it started as helping a boy get used to his new power, but now they decided to get in the sack with him. Aphrodite asked herself as she couldn't understand their relationship before seeing how Zenobia was happy due to her boyfriend not minding to get down and dirty in the sack for babies. Irina and Asia shocked her the most since she could tell that the two of them had honest to kind feelings for Issei. Still, it would seem that Asia had found someone to love and always be with her to keep her safe and protected, while Lorena was looking for someone who was like Issei when they were children before he became a pervert. And Echo was a tougher nut out of the 6 since Aphrodite couldn't quite understand why she fell for Issei in the first place. The goddess honestly thought Kaneko wasn't interested in anything besides sweets and food. Such a strange feeling. Love is truly a strange and complicated feeling. Aphrodite sighed as she looked at Issei's heart in her hands and could see the travel, Kuroka, Kunu, Rose-Weiss, and Gasper truly cared about Issei and confessed their feelings to him, to which Issei returned and stayed in touch with them as well. These 5 still have strong bonds with Issei. I truly do hope that they can help him rebuild his confidence and love him back as he loves them, Aphrodite said as she gasped as she saw a couple more hearts form around Issei's own and connect to him. Interesting. These have that strange aura I felt earlier, Aphrodite said as she was observing the hearts that formed around Issei and couldn't see their whole person, but the aura was resonating with Issei's own. Interesting. I'll only interfere when I need to, just in case, to protect the one who sacrificed everything. I'll make sure he's never hurt by such heartbreak again, Aphrodite said as she made a promise to herself to protect the heart of the man who was about to enter a fight that he wouldn't imagine. Shinto Tito. Issei slowly woke up from a comfortable sleep. As he looked, he saw that Kazuhana was spooning him like a large spoon, which shocked the fallen emperor. Strangely, instead of pushing Kazuhana away, Issei let her continue hugging him before Kazuhana slowly opened her eyes and smiled down at him. Good morning, Issei. Did you sleep well last night? Kazuhana asked, speaking with genuine concern, which surprised Issei since he had thought the woman was pretending to be kind yesterday evening at the bar before. Issei just nodded in response. Kazuhana could tell that Issei enjoyed being her snuggle buddy, so she kissed his forehead, got out of bed, and left the room. Let's just keep this between us, only it doesn't find out, Kazuhana said in a hushed tone before Issei just nodded again before the woman left him alone. Issei was surprised that Kazuhana didn't try to ask for money or anything else, but her actions showed that perhaps he misjudged her. That is one interesting woman, Issei mumbled as he got up and stretched his arms and back, causing some of his bones and muscles to crack. He then headed to the kitchen to see Mia cooking breakfast. She then smiled at him. Hello there. How are you doing this fine morning? Mia asked as Issei smiled and replied to her. Well, I'm doing good, but I do apologize if I was an inconvenience for you and your in yesterday evening, Issei said as Mia shook her head and replied. No, not at all. In fact, I wanted to thank you for what you did for Kazuhana last night. Mia said as Issei was surprised, but before asking what she meant, Mia beat him to the punch. Don't worry, I'm not mad since you remind me a bit like myself when my husband passed away. Mia said as Issei was shocked by this before sensing that Mia had some incredible power built up inside of her. What do you mean by that, Isama-san? Issei asked as he looked closer at her power level. She's definitely on par with a low-tier ultimate class being, not a male level, but definitely strong enough to face a whole army of high-class fighters. Issei could feel her power as a sharp blade, capable of destroying probably more than half the city, should it be let loose. Mia could tell that Issei was like her as well. A being with so much power yet a broken heart, and a desire to fix himself. Do not fear, Issei. You are always welcome to stay at the inn, Mia said as she set her spoon down and gently ruffled the top of his head. And I am sorry for all you had to go through in your life. You were deeply hurt by a broken heart. Yes. Issei was shocked. She saw through him until Mia nodded as if she understood him. I won't ask what happened to you because that would be rude, but I do wish you would stay here. I think this will be a wonderful place for you to be able to live again, Mia said as Issei sighed and pulled out some money before handing it to her. I'll stay here for a week. I don't wish to inconvenience you anymore, so after a week, I'll be gone, Issei said. He then thanked her for the chat until he left the kitchen and almost bumped into Kaguri. Sorry about that. You okay? Issei asked as Kaguri nodded before asking him, Are you looking for work? We could use a new bouncer and security guard at the bar. The pay is nice and you'd get free drinks on the house. Kaguri said as Issei rubbed his chin, thinking about it before Kaguri handed him a card. Think about it and let me know what you think, Kaguri said. Issei thanked him and took the card before heading to the front door. He left the inn and headed towards an alleyway where he saw he was finally alone. He summoned his wings and used an invisibility spell on himself. And Kami, I can use magic now, thanks to the training with the others, Issei said to himself before he took off to the sky and snapped his fingers, transforming his clothes from his casual clothes to his new clothes that are part of his new fashion sense. After Issei's popularity grew, even after losing the boosted gear, Ravel told Issei that he needed a new style since his school clothes just wouldn't cut it. So after taking him clothes shopping, Issei got some new clothes that suited him and also helped him with 3 new styles for battle, casual and formal. Here's a weekly wardrobe plan for Issei Hyoudou, balancing battle-ready, casual and formal styles. Casual day. Dark jeans, graphic red t-shirt. Casual zip-up hoodie. Sneakers. Issei's battle-ready attire is a combination of functional and stylish elements designed for enhanced protection and agility during combat. 1. Black leather jacket with enhancements, stylish yet reinforced with protective materials. Provides resistance against physical attacks and minor energy blasts. Flexible panels for unrestricted movement in battle. 2. High-tech combat pants, form-fitting for agility and flexibility. Equipped with advanced materials for enhanced durability. Integrated pockets for carrying small tools or gadgets. 3. Red and black armored vest, adds an extra layer of protection to vital areas. Energy-absorbing panels for defense against magical attacks. Enhances Issei's overall resilience in battles. 4. Lightweight combat boots. Designed for agility and swift movements, reinforced soles for stability during intense combat. Equipped with concealed compartments for small items. 5. Pendant for a subtle touch. Doubles as a protective amulet with magical properties. Symbolizes Issei's connection to his strengths and abilities. Aesthetic detail that complements his overall battle style. This battle-ready attire not only serves practical purposes, but also reflects Issei's evolving maturity and style in the series, combining functionality with a distinctive look. Formal elegance, tailored black suit, crisp white dress shirt, red silk tie for a pop of color, polished black dress shoes, classic watch and cufflink. This diverse weekly wardrobe showcases Issei's adaptability to different occasions while maintaining his style. Issei still kept red in his style, but he now wore a combination of casual, formal and battle attire. He decided to go with his casual style since he wanted to explore the city merely. However, His clothes had some special enhancements to make sure he could still defend himself in battle, and he needed more time to change his attire for battle. Issei flew to the top of the MBI building and looked around the whole city. He was amazed by how small it looked, but he could tell that this was the start of a new beginning in his life. Issei did go to Shintotito to have a fresh start, but not for the reasons he said to Gasper. The truth is that Issei was there because he heard of an interesting opportunity at MBI, and the president, Minaka Hiroto, who was actually a man who made a contract with Azazel a few years ago under Azazel's human disguise, actually reached out to him after hearing about his experience in fights from Azazel himself, so Issei decided to take the job offer. Issei's thoughts were interrupted when he felt a massive blast of ice magic coming from the park. This shocked him, as it was almost close to Sona when she attempted to use ice magic. Issei flew over to the park and saw a small noble behind a man wielding a sword of sorts, fighting a woman who seemed to be using ice powers. "I already told you I don't wish to go with you," the woman said as he continued to blast more and more ice magic towards the man, who leaped away in the nick of time to protect the noble, before he slammed the bottom of his sword into the ground, causing the ground to shake and destroy the ice. "It's not a bad deal when you think about it, Akitsu. Come with me and my master, and you won't be broken anymore," the man said as he tapped his forehead. "After all, as long as that mark is on your forehead, you'll never be able to find your destined one." Akitsu looked down as if struck in her soul, which made Issei grit his teeth in anger. He had seen that same look in his own eyes when he was broken and doubted himself, but thankfully, his friend saved him, so Issei decided to intervene. "I'm afraid I'll have to stop you there," Issei said as he made his appearance known to the three of them before standing in front of Akitsu, shocking her until she saw his eyes that told her to stay back. The man was surprised by the man's appearance before the noble behind him stopped him from speaking. "This man means business, Mutsu. Let me take over," the noble said, and the man known as Mutsu nodded, sheathing his sword before the noble looked at Issei and asked, "My name is Mikigami Hayato. It's a pleasure to meet you. What are your intentions here?" Mikigami asked as Issei could tell this noble was a woman, given her scent, before speaking. "I intend to prevent you from taking advantage of her state of well-being." "Tell me, is that how you do things? Break them down with their weaknesses and pretend to care about them when all you desire is their power?" Issei asked, and the noblewoman could tell this man meant business before she replied. "I will admit that, granted, my ways may seem cruel, but I am offering this broken Sakurai a chance to be accepted someplace, since that mark on her forehead is her curse that she must bear for the rest of her life," Mikigami said as she pointed to Akitsu. "She is a broken Sakurai, meaning she can't find her destined one, and not finding their soulmate is very cruel to their hearts. So I'm merely offering her a place in my home so others don't try to take advantage of her." Issei didn't understand what Askure was, but knew it all came down to Akitsu's opinion, so he turned around and spoke to her. "What is it that you want, Akitsu?" That simple question shook Akitsu to the core, since she had been in the park for days and never once tried to form a connection with anyone since the game began, due to them only wanting her body or power, which resulted in her freezing them. Akitsu almost considered taking the order from Mikigami, but the boy in front of her stopped her as his words deeply made the Sakurai feel special and comforted in his presence. Looking at his back made Akitsu's opinion change, as she could see that this person was a man who didn't know her, but still desired to protect her from harm. And the question he asked her broke the camel's back, as she felt something she had never felt before since being broken. Her heartbeat resonated with the men. She could see his soul and tell that although he may appear silent and cruel, he has a kind heart and soul that has been hurt and endured much. Akitsu then knew what she desired as she took Issei's hand and cupped his left cheek before asking him, "Are you truly asking me for my opinion?" Akitsu asked as Issei nodded his head, not knowing what would happen next, which made Akitsu smile at him. "Then I have made my choice," Akitsu said in a firm voice as she leaned in and kissed his lips alone, shocking Issei, Mikigami, and Mutsu. The mark on her forehead began to glow brightly, and her aura began to appear as an icy blue. Issei didn't push her away because her power felt comforting and could feel a piece of his heart, mind, and soul be fixed by the kiss, along with feeling the emotions and warmth of the woman in front of him. So he reciprocated the kiss, causing a massive spike in his power to shock a few individuals. Olympus. Aphrodite was shocked as she felt the massive spike of power from Issei's soul. Then she looked at Issei's soul and saw one of the hearts she couldn't see before appearing as a Kitsu. This aura. That's impossible. I didn't think I'd ever see a Sakurai again after their planet was destroyed. Aphrodite said as she recalled creating a species that was beings of emotion that she, the goddess of love, created to help bring life into others by showering them with love and kindness from a being that may be powerful, but desires to feel accepted and loved by their destined one. Aphrodite knew the red string theory was a double-edged sword, but that's why she made the seer to help lost souls find their soulmates, so they could feel complete and loved by their partners. Issei had such a large heart and powerful emotions that Aphrodite could tell that if the seer were on Earth, Issei would be able to heal with not only the ones who still love him back in his home, but also the ones who would put the pieces of his heart together. Now I know that Issei will be able to heal and perhaps even help those who long to be loved as well, Aphrodite said, with happy tears in her eyes, as she saw a glimpse into Issei's future with him snuggling a Kitsu in his arms. A Kitsu is complete and loved by her husband. Also, another thing to point out is that Aphrodite is a sucker for happy endings and things that involve romance. This could explain why she loved romancing time and shows that piqued her interest. Evan. Gabriel was shocked as she could feel Issei's power spike up. She wanted to see that he was fine until she felt his soul and heart being repaired as well. This amazed and shocked Gabriel since she knew Issei was doing better after the therapy with her, but was worried Issei would close his heart off to others, which is why she was happy that the kind-hearted boy she became the guardian angel of was still in there, despite all the pain and sadness he endured with his journey in the supernatural world. Lady Gabriel, are you okay? Jean asked as Gabriel wiped her tears and smiled before replying to the knight. Of course, Jean. I'm just so happy that my little soldier is opening his heart to others who are healing him, Gabriel said as Jean smiled in response, knowing she was talking about Issei. Well, I guess we'll have to see how he is when we see him in a few months, Jean said. She was happy to hear Issei was doing well as the two had bonded and seen each other as a brother and sister duo who watched each other's backs. I hope you well, Issei. I can't wait to see how you are doing after a while, since I know a few others want to see you after their assignments are finished, and we can truly relax and rest in peace. Jean said that she knew there were still some issues to work out to ensure that peace could truly be achieved, so we could begin the celebration reunion for a special announcement the faction leaders wanted to give to everyone. Speaking of the faction leaders, Indra was shocked at the vision he had just seen involving Issei Hyoudou, which made the Hindu god smile a tiny one. He was interested in seeing what would happen at the reunion. 6 months. Only 6 months before this new Issei emerges. I can't wait to see this. The future really does rule. Mutsu grabbed Mikigami as she was shocked to see this. What's happening, Mutsu? Akitsu's being winged and we need to get out of here before we're caught in the blast. Mutsu shouted as the duo escaped the fire and icy aura from covering the two. The kissing duo continued to share their souls as their auras began to blend. Akitsu's wings appeared as icy ones as their auras began to send a massive shock of power to all of the Sakurai and Shinto Daido as well, causing those unwinged to feel the power that was released from the duo, especially the Ashikabi. Meanwhile, those who are winged sense a powerful force that even surpasses Sekirei 14, Miya and Karasuba. Even MBI scientists were shocked by the massive spike of power coming from the park until their auras receded to normal. Akitsu and Ase parted lips and stared into each other's eyes before they smiled at each other, as if they had known each other for a long time. Issei Hyoudou, the Diablo Dragon, Akitsu, Sekire number 12. This prayer is the ice of my pledge. Shatter the misfortunes of my Ashikabi. The two souls, both broken, have now found solace and love in each other as their hearts heal. Issei and Akitsu then noticed that both Mikigami and Mutsu left the park during the winging process before Issei's phone began to ring. Issei answered it, and was surprised to see the ID number. Shit. It's my job, Issei said as he answered the call and apologized to him. I'm sorry for being late, Mr. Hiroto, but something came up and nonsense. Do not worry because this has made it easier to bring you into the game. What do you mean bring me into the game? What exactly is the job you hired me for? Issei asked as he had his suspicions about the job before Minaka waved his concerns off. Do not worry, everything will be explained when you come to MBI. Meet me in my office and I'll explain what I want you to do, Minaka said before he hung up the call, which annoyed Issei slightly. Akitsu stared at Issei with concern. Do you need a hug? Akitsu asked as she spread her arms out, showing off her massive bust pinned down by chains before Issei nodded and hugged the Sakurai, making Akitsu smile as she nuzzled her head into Issei's hair and enjoyed his scent. Thanks, Akitsu. It's my pleasure to tend to you, my Asakabi. Akitsu let him go, and the two headed towards MBI, unaware that there were other Sakurai who also felt the new Ashikabe enter the game. Izumo-in. Holy shit. That kind of power was even greater than both Mia and Karasuba combined if they were using their Naruto. Matsu said as she looked at the energy readings from both Akitsu and Issei Hyoudou during the winging process. She felt very turned on by the energy output. Matsu had never felt this kind of power before in her whole life, and learning that there was a person this powerful made her think there were beings out there who were probably even more powerful than their species. This idea amazed and worried her. The idea of being around those with incredible power amazed her, but also scared her, since if others can take on Mia and Karasuba, then they have a good reason to be scared. I can already imagine the chaos that will come in this game, since this Ashikabe is much different from the others, Matsu said, as she could imagine the other Sakurai and Ashikabe wanting to try to take Issei down. Still, if her readings were correct, then this Ashikabe would be the most powerful and dangerous Ashikabe of all. MBI. Excuse me, but I'm here to see Minaka Hiroto. I have an appointment with him, Issei explained. The receptionist looked at the appointments on her laptop and nodded. Yes. Issei Hyoudou. Hiroto-san is waiting for you at his office, the receptionist said as she handed a pass to Issei before the dragon thanked her and headed to the elevator with Akutsu next to him. The two then headed up towards the highest floor in the building before they ended up in front of a large office with a woman being there to greet them. The woman had a striking presence. Her chestnut hair flowed gracefully down her shoulders, complementing her determined, amethyst-colored eyes. Standing at 5'8", her athletic build was a testament to both agility and strength. Her attire was clerk attire, but it was more business-oriented than combat-wise. Greetings. My name is Natsuo Ikamachi. It's a pleasure to meet you, Issei Hyoudou, Natsuo said as she lightly bowed before showing him to the door. Hiroto-sama is expecting you, so we shouldn't keep him waiting, Natsuo said as she led the two into the office. There were a few chairs in front of the desk where the president of MBI resided, and he smiled at the duo. Issei. I'm glad to see that you are well. I'm grateful you accepted my offer to work for me at MBI. I was impressed when I heard of your skills from Azazel, who spoke highly of you, Minaka said as Issei was surprised to hear that Azazel spoke highly of him. Still, then again, the fallen governor was a dear friend to him as well as a second father figure in his life, who was also there for him when he needed someone to talk to after Trihexa died in the war. I'm grateful, though I was hoping to continue my education at Tokyo University, Issei said, as Minaka sighed but nodded. I can understand your desire to continue your education, but I'm afraid I should inform you of something important, Minaka said as his glasses had a glare before it faded away to reveal his eyes with a look of maturity and melancholic clarity, as if he had years of experience walking the earth. I have met many like you from high school, who thought they'd be able to make their dreams come true, but there is much more to life than passing tests. Tens of thousands of students have passed their entrance tests this year for the university of their choice. So what? You are uniquely qualified for a position we have. If you accept, your starting salary will be 100 million yen per year, which will not only include bonuses and stock options, but also allow you to work in the company as a member of my staff. Since I can tell you are a smart lad and could use some business experience, so I wish to offer you a job that would not only pay you well, but also grant you a position in my business that will greatly benefit you. Are you interested? Minaka asked as Issei looked over at the benefits and such before looking at Minaka with untrusting eyes before asking, what exactly is this position you're talking about? If it's something like security, then I'm more than capable of dealing with anything that comes my way, Issei said as Minaka laughed with amusement as he replied to Issei. I knew I'd like you, Minaka said before he calmed down and began explaining the position. Issei listened to the position and was surprised to hear that Akitsu is an alien with superpowers called Sekirei, whose human partners are called Ashikabi. Minaka also told him about the Sekirei plan and his role in it as the enforcer of its rules. Minaka also informed Issei that should he accept, he would be part of MBI. Issei was unsure about this, so he looked at Akitsu, who had been quiet the whole time. She then looked at Issei and nodded in response to his unasked question. I will follow you wherever you go. I am yours and you are mine. Issei smiled despite knowing her for only a few hours, but that kiss had allowed him to see all of Akitsu and vice versa. The two were able to look into each other's souls and memories, which helped them understand that they were similar and would be there to support each other in good times and bad, sickness and health, life and death until death did them part. Issei then looked back at Minaka and replied, I'll do it, but I have my conditions, Issei said as Minaka expected this and gestured for him to make his demands. 1. Akitsu is on the squad, and I decide if the others are worthy of being on the team. I need a team I can trust, not babysit some brats who can't put up a fight. Akitsu smiled at this as she hugged his left arm and took his hand into her own. 2. I'll be staying at a place of my choosing, and communicating with me will be via cell phone or email. Also, I expect a list of the rules of this game. I'm not against killing, but I won't kill for simply pleasure or amusement. I'm not a bloodthirsty psychopath. Issei said as this amused Monica since he spoke just like how Azazel described him. And finally, the squad will be staying with me. If you agree to these terms, then I shall accept the job. Do we have a deal? Issei asked. Minaka smiled behind his hands before getting up from his seat and walking towards Issei. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You're just like Azazel described you, Minaka said before holding out a hand. I accept. Issei then shook the hand before Issei stood up with Akitsu next to him. So where are the ones you wanted me to take on the team? Issei asked as Minaka pointed to the left of the office to see 3 women enter. One had pink hair and was dressed in a black kimono with a missing sleeve. One had a mess of wild, unkempt hair and bandages wrapped around her chest and arms. The last silver hair was in a long ponytail, and she was dressed in a black outfit with a long gray coat resting on her shoulders. She was the one who got Issei's attention. She looked at him with an odd grin and slowly sharpened the katana with a whetstone. So you 3 are the ones the MBI hired to be this disciplinary squad, Issei said, looking them over before humming to himself. Nope, to all 3, Issei said as the pink one shouted with disbelief on her face. What? What do you mean no? I mean, you 3 don't even look like you have any actual combat skills. I've been in many battles and can tell that you 3 are weaker than me. Akitsu, I can tell, has a lot of power but needs help fine-tuning it. Sure, having power is cool and all, but it's about control, which, sadly, you 3 don't have. Issei said as he looked at the 3 of them. Inky is a close combat type who gets too heated in battle while thinking she can destroy her enemies. She's nothing worthwhile but a bully who tries to make herself think she's strong when she's too scared to admit her weaknesses. Issei said as the pink-haired one bristled like an angry cat before Issei looked at the bandaged one. You seem to be a bit of an airhead, and granted, you seem to be a bit more competent than your friend there. I'm afraid you'll only be in the way, Issei said as the gray-haired one shrugged her shoulders before Issei turned to the last one. And you, my samurai wanna, are just annoying and too much of a wild card. I have no need for a Sekirei who doesn't know what real loyalty is. Issei said as the pink one glared at Issei's back before stomping towards him and jabbing a finger in his chest. You and me. Right now, I'll show you just how strong I really am. Pinky shouted as she glared at Issei before a smile appeared on his face. Okay then. If you can actually make me take you seriously, then I'll consider having you on the team. Issei said before asking if there is a training arena for them. Minaka replied that they could fight on the roof. The group went to the roof. As Issei and Akitsu walked towards the left side, Pinky readied herself to hit that smug look on Issei's face as he reassured Akitsu that he would be fine. I hope your bite is as good as your bark, Pinky, Issei said as Benetsubusa growled at him and charged toward him before delivering a right hook, which Issei dodged with ease. Benetsubasa was shocked by this since humans were not able to see her coming before she tried to strike him with her fists. Don't always aim for the same spots. Use unorthodox tricks to throw the enemy off, Issei said, as Benetsubasa then tried to kick him with a helicopter kick. Issei merely caught her leg and pushed her away. Arasoba and Hyene continued to watch Benetsubasa try to land an actual strike on Issei before Issei allowed her to hit him in the face. But as soon as her fist made contact, the sound of bones breaking echoed on the rooftop. Ah! Benetsubasa shouted as she pulled back her fist and felt her left hand swell up a bit as she was shocked by the results of her attack. What the hell is your body made of? It felt like I was punching a massive steel door, Benetsubasa asked as Issei revealed his scales, shocking the Sicarii as Issei had his eyes become that of a dragon. Well, if I were still a human, then I probably wouldn't be standing here. But I lost my human body due to the war, and have been reborn as a Diablo dragon. This is who I am. Issei Hyoudou, the Diablo dragon, and I are far more powerful than you can even comprehend, Issei said as he lifted his left arm before sending a punch that not only broke the sound barrier, but also blew Benetsubasa a few inches back. She felt the power of the punches. Her face was that of pure shock. There's no way. She was a human once. Benetsubasa was shocked as she fell to her knees, defeated before Issei walked towards her. The pink-haired Sakura cried her eyes out as she realized she could never reach that level of power. Her whole life, she desired to become the strongest, but seeing power like that in front of her made her realize her dream was that of a fool. Damn it! Benetsubasa yelled as she slammed her left fist into her ceiling. Why can't I get stronger? Why doesn't anyone want me? I have power, and I am beautiful. So why am I always alone? Benetsubasa yelled as she didn't care about what Hyene or Karasuba would say to her until a gentle voice spoke to her. You can become stronger. The voice said as Benetsubasa looked up to see Issei kneeling on one knee and speaking to her. For you see, I was weak once. In fact, I was the weakest of a line of great warriors. But I didn't let that stop me as I trained hard and had to go through powerful forces to get where I am now. And every time I got knocked down, I continued to get back up. I wished to become stronger to protect not just myself but the people I love and care for. Power is meaningless unless it has a purpose, so I want to ask you a question, Benetsubasa. Issei then lifted her face to look into his eyes before he spoke to her a simple question. Why do you want power? Benetsubasa has always been a passionate woman who loves shopping and fighting and wants to try the finer things in life. However, one thing she truly desires is to be loved by a man who accepts her and cares for her so much that they would be married and have a family. However, Benetsubasa hadn't met any men who seemed to be interested in her because of her fiery personality, and how she was perceived as a boy by others, even though she had feminine qualities. The rejections didn't hurt as much at first, but when the 10th one came in, Benetsubasa began to feel like she would just be alone before she saw a message from their creator. My children, know that love is such a powerful emotion, but also know that if the one you wish to become one with doesn't truly reciprocate your feelings, then they are not your destined one. Your destined one is someone who will not just be there for you physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. A person who will be there to help you when you hit rock bottom and feel as though you are alone. Their words and actions will help you see that they are your destined one, so be patient and remember that every one of you deserves love. Never forget that. The message hit Benetsubasa's soul as she cried tears of joy and happiness from the words of her creator before smiling to herself as she knew what she needed to do. Train so hard she'll become strong enough to find her destined one and destroy their fears and doubts. Become a pillar of support for them and give them so much love and strength that they'll accept and love you. That is why, on that day, Sicaria 103, then its a buzzer began to train for the day that her Asacabe would appear and wing her before they became one in body and soul. I want power so I can protect and help my Asakabe. I wish to crush the stones torturing my Asakabe so I can be his pillar of support and help him in his troubled times. Then Zabasa said as Issei patted her head as he spoke to her. You remind me of myself. I wished for power to protect the ones I loved, and I still do to this day, which is why I still strive to better myself. I am not perfect. No one is, But if you truly wish to be a pillar of support for your destined one, then come with me and let me help you gain that strength that you so desire, Issei said as he held out a hand for her, which made Benetsubasa's eyes widen. She felt her heartbeat so loudly in her chest it would have exploded. It's you, Benetsubasa said as she took his hand and fell into his arms. Then she kissed his lips, causing crimson wings to appear on his back. Issei returned the kiss, and Benetsubasa felt safe and warm in his arms. She looked into his eyes and smiled at him. Benetsubasa, Sekare number 105. The palm of my pledge crushes the stones, torturing my Ashekabi. Now and forever. Benetsubasa said as Issei gently took her left hand and healed it with some magic before looking at the last two, who were amazed and impressed by his power before he spoke to them. I'll be taking Benetsubasa and Akitsu with me. They're part of the disciplinary squad. If you two wish to try and join us, then you'll have to come find me, Issei said as he carried Benetsubasa in bridal fashion as Akitsu followed him before they stopped to see Minaka smiling at him. I'm going to enjoy having you in the games, Issei Hyoudou. I look forward to them as well, Minaka Haruto. The two stared at each other a bit more until Issei left the rooftop. Karasoba then walked towards Minaka with a smile of excitement on her face. I see why you wanted him to have the job. It's to strike fear into the hearts of the other Ashikabi, isn't it? We shall see. After all, I am a mere spectator who wishes to see this game be the one that holds the fate of the Securii in the palm of the victor's hands. Let's see how he does on his first date tomorrow, Minaka said as Karasoba watched the trio leave with her eyes looking at Issei as if he were her prey. However, after he displays power, Karasoba's warrior side wants to fight him even more now. Minaka was correct about one thing. This game is going to be a lot more fun, Karasoba said as she walked back to MBI to get to her room for training to clash with Issei Hyoudou. Oh my! This is unexpected, Mia said as Issei came back and bowed to Mia again, thanking her for letting him stay the night before seeing that Issei had moved across from the inn and paid for one of the houses in the area up front. It was a 2-story building with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a good-sized kitchen, a dining room, a large yard, and a front garden. Issei had told Mia to keep the rest of the money he gave her for a week, and he thanked her for the hospitality. However, he wanted to live in a place that was his own, so he bought the house. He was still invited over to a welcome to the neighborhood dinner at the inn, which was pleasant with a touch of chaos due to his new Sekari. How in the world do you not topple over? Benetsubasa asked as she stared at Kazuhana's breasts before the wind. Sekari giggled at her eyes before placing her hands below her chest and pushed them up a bit to show their divinity, much to Benetsubasa's annoyance, until Kazuhana replied to her, "It comes with a healthy diet, plenty of sleep, and milk to help my girls get to where they are now," Kazuhana said as she noticed Issei taking a peek at them before turning away. Kazuhana then leaned into Issei's ear, squishing Benetsubasa's head into her chest, and whispered into his ear, "They're all yours if you want to take a peek," Kazuhana said before a ladle flew in the air and knocked her off both Issei and Benetsubasa, who began to take big gulps of air after being suffocated by the boobs of destruction. "No illicit or sexual activities while we have dinner," Mia said. Kazuhana pouted but nodded as she returned to her side. This amused Kaguri before she spoke to Issei. "Hey Issei. If you are still looking for work, my workplace is hiring a security guard for my second job." "Second job? How many do you have?" "Only 2. I work as a bouncer, but also as a host at a host club sometimes. It depends on my boss since I have a lot of admirers in both of them. I'll have to think about it since it sounds like it could be fun," Issei said as Kaguri nodded before Akitsu fed Issei some food, which he didn't mind, and this made Akitsu smile as she was enjoying his warm aura while Kaguri smirked at the two of them. "They really do make a nice couple. Maybe Issei can help me find my destined one as well," Kaguri said, unaware that his body was slowly getting warmer when Issei's left hand brushed against Kaguri's hand. All in all, it was a good first day for Issei Hyoudou and Shinto Daido. Meanwhile, back in Quatown, "So your brother told you about the special announcement for the reunion in 6 months? Aquino asked as Rias smiled and nodded. "Indeed. Sir Zex has told me that since the war is over, the time of peace is now underway. Cirzicius said that a special ratings game is in order for not just the biblical faction, but also our other allies who will join as well in the Azazel Cup, a special ratings game that will be for all of us and our allies. This event means that we can not only participate, but also help our boyfriend get stronger since he has unlocked his sacred gear. But he could still use some more training. Riaz explained as Aquino agreed that Greg needed some more combat experience since he did wield incredible skills with the sword, but he also tended to be a bit of a brute who relied too heavily on muscle more than brains. It was a bit of trial and error, but Greg realized that he couldn't always barrel his way through all attacks despite his talent for being a tank when taking multiple physical or magical hits. I can't wait to tell the others about this. Let's go tell them now, Aquino said as Riaz nodded in response before the two left without realizing that they weren't alone, which made Kiba sigh in relief as he had to send the letter as soon as possible to Cirzicius. So he went towards Riaz's desk in her room as he then took a special stamp that Riaz used to mark very important letters to be sent immediately. Hence, he used it on the letter and watched it teleport to Cirzicius's domain. I just hope he gets it before the reunion because if the other leaders hear about it, then who knows what will happen, Kiba said as he left the room quietly and was shocked to see Gasper standing in front of Riaz and Aquino using her sacred gear before gesturing Kiba with her hands to leave now. Kiba thanked the vampire as he left the area, letting out a sigh of relief. He was glad he had accomplished his mission before apologizing to Issei for breaking his promise to him. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next.